Would like to welcome the first keynote, who is the Vice President of SSH Communication Security. So let's give some hands of applause to Mr. Mika.
Okay, perhaps this is better. So the next 40 minutes I will be using your valuable time to explain something about the crypto. And as you know that our company was inventing the SSH protocol, but not everybody is knowing that there is a company actually behind the whole thing. What I will be also explaining is that how we were doing it, what is the future, what we are seeing, how we are tackling the things, and which are the things which are preventing crypto and these kind of things happening in the world. And later in the evening, I will be taking a second challenge actually to explain about the challenges which we are heritating actually from the Snowden for the whole Europe. So this is now a presentation which is a bit more technical. I won't be going into the details, how the Diffie-Hellman key exchange is happening or anything like that, but something I will be telling how we are doing and what are the issues. So is anybody hacking my mouse just now? Okay, good. So I have been doing this work already more than 15 years, traveling around the planet and explaining for the governments how they should be protecting the information security. And last 10 years I have been concentrating quite a lot for the Europe and European Commission and different governments inside Europe. But this is not really a speech on behalf of Europe, neither against anybody, but this is a speech about the crypto. All these things what I will be explaining, please consider those as my personal opinion, so that I'm not able to speak on behalf of Commission or anybody else. These are just things which we are seeing this company happening. So if we are going back in the ages, encryption was starting with the papyrus. So you were putting the papyrus around the stick, and this was, something which was enough on those days. All right, Julius Caesar was inventing something a bit more advanced. We have been seeing Enigma coming and going, and of course with the Enigma we were also learning that when making this kind of proprietary solution, they might be also failing miserable way. But hey, the history has been going on since, and there has been a huge amount of different kind of gadgets which has been coming and going. But what is the change actually? The fundamental change is that people are not anymore trusted for these kind of mechanical things. We are now in the internet time, and which is meaning that it's the protocols, encryption libraries, containers which are doing the job. So how this whole thing was starting actually was 1995, when Tatu Ylönen, the founder of the company, was working at the university in Helsinki. And one day when he was connected to the mainframe computer in the university, somebody was hacking his connection to the computer. So he got so upset that he decided that he will be preventing this happening. So he was starting to develop the SSH. That was actually the start of the SSH. But the story wouldn't be totally complete without actually mentioning also the Antti Huima, who was his fellow colleague in the university, and of course that he was cheering himself by hacking the Tatu's SSH protocol in several ways. Until, Tatu had to hire the Antti for the company to make the next generation SSH. So both guys are still working for the company after all these 15 years. They are still developing the system. And, after solving this initial thing, connecting two dots in the internet without having possibility for interference was only a starting point for the whole thing. So we invented the SSH protocol. We were also giving that as a free source code for everybody. But in the meantime, we were also developing our own proprietary SSH. So that there is an open SSH, which is still utilized in more than 50% of all the web servers in this planet. And it can be found from every single Linux, Unix, and so on. But we are also having our own proprietary systems, which we are developing for, let's say, more advanced users. But I will be coming that and the reasoning for that a bit later. Nowadays, we are a company having several offices around the planet. All the development is happening in Finland. There is a good reason for that. And of course, that we are having more than 3,000 customers who are using currently our products. The reason why you are not necessarily seeing this happening in the around you is that usually our customers are enterprises, governments, and of course that we are having a lot of customers which are confidential, which is meaning that there are governments, militaries, and so on, which are using our technology. So this has been going on already years, but now I will be explaining that how the whole thing is put together. So the crypto is, of course, the main thing which is here, but it's good to understand it's a very, very tiny thing of the whole product. Good cryptography guys are taking 12 years before they are level that they are really able to produce good cryptography. It takes roughly 2 to 3 years before you are in the level that as an average programmer that you can utilize the cryptographic libraries and implement those to your source code. So, which is meaning that you have to expect 10, 12 years before you are able to get these guys which are now currently doing the crypto. But don't worry, there are a lot of these kind of available things in the crypto area what we can use. However, it's good to understand that they are not identical all. So like I have been always saying that when we are dealing with these crypto libraries is that you should be understanding like in USA, none of these are allowed to be handled the classified secret data. Actually, there is now one this kind of crypto library which is allowed to be utilized for the secret data in USA. But on average, those things which we are just discussing publicly are not so which are considered as a bulletproof. But as I was saying, that the crypto is a tiny the thing of the whole product, which is meaning that you have to build the crypto first, then you are making the application, you are generating a hardware, you are installing that customer environment, which is many times legacy environments, and the worst cases are actually the banks and these kind of things when you are trying to drop this kind of latest technology on the top of the OZ operating system environment. So we are also having guys who have been programming 45 years ZOS, and they are still working in our company. But of course so the tiny dot there is the crypto, and you are building a lot of things around that. So we were building this secure shell, and we were able to connect the two things in the internet. We were also able to connect and transfer the material in these kind of crypto tunnels. Now the question is that what have we achieving actually? Today there's going to be a presentation. What I'm also waiting is that SSH tunneling, a gate to the freedom or treat. And actually, I need to already preempt this presentation in a certain degree because it's absolutely true that the perception of encryption is many times making the biggest failure on the whole system. So actually, when making these kind of tunnels, encryptions, we have been generating actually a big hurdle for ourselves. Actually, we are now generating a challenge. So this is taking a picture from one real environment. Actually, one of our customers who is having 120,000 computers in his systems. All right, and all these lines are encrypted tunnels. Great. Are we safe? Actually, we have been generating a huge challenge, what I'm calling that you have been losing the keys. Because it's enough many times that you are able to pick up one SSH key, one certificate, and actually you can compromise the whole network. So you have been going from this kind of secure tunneled environment, unsecure environment where you have been losing most of the keys. So you don't know how many users there are, whether they are, what they are doing, where they are heading, are they transferring the material out or in, and so on. So actually, now the situation is even worse than in the beginning. Of course, that if you are having only one computer and one server, you can still consider that you are somehow getting this in grip, you are understanding what is happening, but when there is 100,000 machines, actually, you are lost. So what is in reality happening is that only, let's say, 20% of the users, usually the companies are understanding who are traveling in their networks, and 80% of the keys and access controls are totally lost. But actually, it took NSA and Snowden to put that in the headlines, because as you know, that Snowden was using this key trick as well, pulling out of the data from the NSA servers. But also in the similar way, NSA was using the keys to pull out the information from the European systems. Great deal. So, but we have been discussing this already more than 10 years, because when we were inventing the SSH, we were also seeing that this is going to happen. So we were trying to push this to the different places, like different kind of NIST standards. But it was really needing NSA and Snowden before actually NIST was saying that, all right, guys, you are really having a point. The key seems to be the key for this whole encryption. So we have been inventing this kind of system where you can, from one single place, you can control all the keys in the systems. And not only the keys, but certificates as well. So that you can revocate. First, what you can do is that you can monitor and find the keys in the whole systems. And of course, that, as I was saying, that if there is 100,000 machines, you can find millions of keys in the systems. What you can also monitor that who are those users, who are using those, who are doing the unauthorized operation. And as we have been seeing in the real life, there has been discovered several people which have been leaving the company and which have been still keeping the connection to the mainframes. But of course, we can also lock down the all unnecessary keys and certificates so that we can block that in the future these kind of things are not happening. And of course, that we can remove all these obsolete keys. And then, after all these, we can start to finally manage and automate the way the systems. So, making the encryption, making the tunneling is only getting the things worse, but then you have to do something to get all these things under control. And you might be already now thinking that I have been now solving the issue, but actually, no, actually, it's not enough still with these kind of things. So there is what we are calling prohibited content. There's always prohibited content. Banks are concerned that now when they are happy and finally making these kind of tunnels, what is going inside these tunnels? All right, the banks are seeing the credit card numbers. Operators are wishing that there wouldn't be any child pornography and all these kind of things. But now, when you are having a tunneling, you are having an encryption, how on earth you are able to see it through these tunnels? So we have been inventing a system, what we are calling crypto auditor. And before going any further, you might be already thinking that, hey, this is man-in-the-middle attack. But it is. It is a man-in-the-middle attack. So what we have been doing is that we have been inventing a system so that we are able to see through the encrypted tunnels what is going inside there. It took much more, actually, effort to make that working in the way so that only the legal owner of the network is seeing through the encrypted tunnels, not so that everybody is seeing through the encrypted tunnels. But this is giving it this kind of very interesting features what we have been seeing. Like when you want, in the real time, stop some content in the networks. Currently, we are capable to take and monitor the connections with the speed of 40 gigabit per second. So in this speed, we can stop all these things in the real time, which are hovering around in these encrypted networks, independently if it's a virus, unauthorized user, obsolete command, illegal command, illegal content, whatever you like to put there. So what is it doing is that practically you put your whole IT policy in the system and saying that these are the guys who are allowed to travel in my networks. These are the contents which are allowed to travel in my networks. These are the times when they are allowed to do this. And these are the things where they are allowed to go, and this is where they are not allowed to go. And the whole system is working automatically and seeing through the tunneled systems. And this is actually, how is it looking like? So I have been always explaining that this is like a black box in the airplane, so that when they are crashing, you can take the system and you can check what was the last thing what was happening. Of course, I have to admit as well is that our guys are using this for ourselves as well. So that when they are programming some huge systems, they are putting this on, and if the whole system is failing bad way, then they are seeing the replay with the slow motion. How did we do it? How we were able to crash the customer systems. But you can really see what is going inside there and how the content is looking like. But as I was saying that the more interesting things is that bringing, for example, antivirus inside encrypted tunnel, and not only defending the customer environment from the outside. All right. Now I was planning to go a bit further and explaining how the world is changing around the crypto. So what Snowden told you is that everybody is monitoring everybody. And how the companies are currently reacting, what is happening is that almost every single company is launching now end-to-end encryption, independently if it's a WhatsApp, if it's a Microsoft, is it Google, and so on. And the question should be placed here in Europe and now, is everything now okay? No, actually, the situation from the European point has been sliding actually in wrong direction. And I will be explaining why. Let's start from the basic. As you saw last Thursday, the voting in the Senate was saying that NSA will be still having the green card in their hand. All right. Which is meaning that those things which have been happening in the past will be also happening in the future. What is happening and compromising your safety in Europe is, of course, that the dependency from these kind of systems which are coming outside of the European territory. I have been putting this kind of Freund and Helfer from German police. There has a picture because this is actually meaning that the dependency from the Finnish police, Romanian police, to get this kind of information outside is getting bigger. So which is meaning that they have to always go abroad to get information from those criminals which are actually threatening you. Actually, this dependency is slowing down the safety in your own country. So it's not necessary helping you to protect your privacy and your European values, but actually it might be turning that against you. And this is already, and this has been used already in the wrong way. So when you saw, this is pictures taken a couple of years ago when the RIM was making this first protected system. So they were informing the Indian government that they can't give any information for these guys who are burning their shops in the streets because they are considering that these requirements are astonishing. They would be compromising the safety of the people. And in the next day, when the riots were starting in the London, the same company was saying that, hey, this country is having a right kind of democracy. Now I will be giving the information. Actually, it's a bad thing that these kind of things are decided outside the borders of the Europe or your own country. It's also making it difficult for the citizens which are living here in Europe to understand, am I doing something wrong? Because usually I need to admit that I don't know every single detail which is in the Finnish legislation. But however, if you are judged by the doings based on some other government's legislation, this is making your life rather challenging. Like, of course, I've been taking one example for this couple who was flying to the USA and they have been utilizing a rude English language in their Twitter account, which was considered as a hostile from the incoming country. But then there is a time for the open source as well. So, and then, as I was saying, that we were contributing for open SSH by giving this whole source code in the beginning for internet community. But the open source is now suffering for all this which is happening because, as you have been seeing already earlier, things like Firefox, the browser what I'm personally using, has been all the time attacked against this kind of compromising systems. Why are these the doers actually targeting for this open source? Is simply because there is no corporate who would be suing them in court in any countries. So it's like easy target, you know, it's not fighting back. And now when we have been discussing about the Heartbleed and we have been discussing about shell shock, it's basically the same thing. So as you remember, Heartbleed actually was infected roughly 3 years ago, and the infection was happening in the 1 hour before midnight in New Year's evening. So who is working in that time to getting the source code compiled therein? Actually, the shell shock vulnerability was there almost 13 years, so it's even longer in that sense. So I have been always saying that the first trip is free with like a drug business in this open source code. So when you are finally get hooked, it is very difficult sometimes to get out. So don't misunderstand this. I'm a fan for open source. I have been. Otherwise, our company would not have been giving the source code out in the first place. But the challenge is that you can't now trust for the open source. So OpenSSL is developed by 13 people as a hobby. Okay, actually, 5 of them is very clever. But you have to remember that they are doing that in their spare time. So I would be asking from you now, when was the last time you studied the source code and were compiling that? And if you are considering all the time that, hey, somebody else is doing that, do you know how many people there are who are thinking exactly in the same way? When you are the last participating for open source projects? When did you last time supporting open source project? And so on. Actually, if you are having an illusion that somebody else is doing that, actually the open source is the weakest point because everybody is trusting that somebody else is doing these kind of things. So there has been speculation that how long actually it was known these holes and this still way they were there. So the challenge what we are having at the open source is that everybody has a basically opportunity to infect the source code, opportunity to study the possible weaknesses. There is no real accountability that who is today in this week in charge to taking care of these kind of things. There is no commitment. The guys are doing that excellent work, by the way. They are doing excellent work, but they are doing that in the spare time when they are having free time from the company. You can't expect that anybody would be volunteering and doing so much without any compensation. There is no real maintenance, no emergency hotline to call when something goes wrong. So we need to fix these. We have to bring a contribution. Now, you might have been seeing, for example, that there have been a couple of big companies who have been putting a lot of money now for the OpenSSL. But actually, they are doing that in certain purpose. They have been utilizing this OpenSSL for years and years in their commercial products, which has been leading that it's so deeply implemented that it's easier and much cheaper to give a couple of million for these OpenSSL guys compared that they would be starting to digging that the whole SSAs out from their products. So it's just pure this kind of balance sheet calculation what they are doing. But we have never saw or thought that this kind of open SSH would be competing with our SSH because our customers are different, purpose to utilizing that is different, and we have been saying that at least everybody should be using the OpenSSL. But the alternatives with the encryptions, seems to be now very interesting phenomena happening. So as you know, the TrueCrypt was suddenly disappearing. All what they left us was this kind of encrypted message. It might be totally Latin nonsense, or then actually it's really a message for us about the NSA. But actually the guys, I know some of those guys, were really threatened from this. So there's now discussion in Switzerland that if this would be going on. But of course that I'm seeing this as a disappointment, because it's meaning that this kind of good crypto libraries and the guys who are working with those in the open source are getting smaller. What we have been also seeing is that, like, the message from the TrueCrypt people was that everybody should be moving in the BitLocker. But those who have been investigating the Windows 8 recently, I don't know if you have been doing that, we have been spotting at least that the BitLocker is now removing or the diffuser utilization there, which is meaning that sector internal scrambling is disappearing. And what, of course, where this is leading basically is that if you're having a BitLocker in your hard drive, you can replace the whole sector with your passwords from that sector. So you don't have to break it even. You can utilize your own actually passwords. You are just replacing the whole sector and you can get in the system. Bad thing. Actually, that was very clever system when it was invented. But information security is unfortunately getting political as well. So Jan is a friend of mine from ENISA, so he's working in the ENISA in the European Commission as well. And he will make this kind of statement about the encryption which is coming outside of the European territories. But as we all know, there are even bigger things which are happening, like the Ukraine crisis. So what was happening is that against the promise to get couple of airplanes and tanks in his own home country, then actually these kind of small things, what we are calling cryptography, are suddenly put aside. But it would be unfair to complain that all these things what we are having and the challenges are coming from outside. Actually, we European people are also guilty for these kind of things. There are things like certification happening. So actually, there's 29 member states in European Commission, and only 6 of them is having right to certify this kind of products which are coming to the European information level. Finland and Romania are not those who are having this kind of rights. But the question is that why only 6 countries are, more equal than the other ones? So we have to also fix certain things. Which is even more concern from my point of view is that there are certain countries in Europe who are resisting this kind of advanced or task forces who would designate it to bring and improve the European cryptography, because they are considering that this would be taking some competitive advantages away from there. From the information security point of view, I only see that actually the weakest link in Europe is the weakest country. So actually what we should be able to do is that bringing this kind of holistic capability for every single country in Europe. So what we are currently seeing, what our citizens are seeing, is that there are 2 kind of attacks against the European information security things. Those which are destroying the buildings totally, those which are leaving the buildings totally intact. But of course that if the content which is there inside of the building is gone, actually the whole thing is equally bad. It's just looking better. And of course that when the dependency of this kind of operating system, firewalls, switches, routers is coming from one particular country outside of the European territory, it also means automatically that those countries who are providing these are always going to have advantage against our governmental systems, which has been leading in several countries for consideration, also in the European Parliament, that should the European citizens have their own operating system? My answer for this is yes. Then actually you can build also these kind of things like what we are calling cryptographic capabilities easier on the top of those. But as I was saying, that crypto is a dangerous asset. Even some European countries are considering that. And of course that we are knowing that there are discussions that even that who should have cryptography in their hands. Is it allowed to everybody, or is it only like a weapons of mass destruction limited to certain areas? But the interest has been rising all the time, so that this is, by the way, email from last week from our IT guys who are saying that, yes, we are target of this kind of targeted attack once again. I've been always saying that, you know, this is a sign of credibility, what is happening, because if all the time our firewalls are, you know, binging these kind of things, it means that we have to be important company, otherwise there wouldn't be this kind of attacks. But of course, I also see that the bigger phenomenon behind there, like if you have been seeing what was happening this week, so the Symantec was making this kind of report of the region, and actually it's not so new thing. It has been hanging around starting 2003, but actually 2006, 2007, what was getting more famous, and finally, you know, Symantec was this kind of report. It's interesting to see who are those targets where it has been put. And in this time, first time, I have been seeing that there has been a program which has been targeted for the cryptography people to dig the information from their systems. So even in the individual level, this kind of people are now seeing as a valuable target. And these are the couple of screenshots from my PC. So this was happening a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, one state player was attacking against my PC. So that don't bother to hack my PC. You know, every time when I'm going back home, you know, it will be replaced by the hard drive. So that when we are anyway assuming that somebody has been clever enough. But of course, that I need to say that it's a bit annoying traveling around, seeing these kind of things happening. And the last time what was also I was able to see in the real life is that somebody was opening the BitLocker in my PC remotely. So that yes, the guys are getting better. It seems to be that this is coming, this kind of common fun, and there are more players in this area. But in the cryptography and information security, it's good to understand this. Trust is everything. And of course that which is very valuable for our companies, that the people are trusting and what we are doing. This is one of the reasons, by the way, for the location why we are also located in Finland, because our legislation is prohibiting authorities to asking any backdoor, any cooperation in this kind of field, so that they can't come to me and ask anything which would be controversial for the company's own principles. So the safe location is one of those. So consider if I would be going out and saying, like the Cisco CEO, that dear Finnish president, stop hacking my things. Would you believe that anybody outside Finland or inside Finland would be purchasing our products? But it's amazing that these kind of things are happening and the guys are still surviving. So I would be saying that the Cisco CEO is rather brave one, because he was saying that I was thinking I'm having this kind of challenge. Also equally, I'm seeing that those customers who are still buying Cisco are somehow suspicious. Why on earth they are knowing, because the CEO has been informing this kind of small challenge in their systems. Or then there is something else which is, you know, making this happen. But of course that when the crypto is nothing better, of course the search for alternatives is also getting better. And these are the old slide from NSA things. The main thing is that these were already done 2008. And now what we have been seeing in the market to prevent and circumvent this kind of ciphering and crypto are much more advanced. So now what we are seeing is, for example, this kind of ASA attacks against where you are replacing the algorithms in your system with something else. So you are thinking that you are encrypting, but actually you are not encrypting. All right, then we are coming in the balance that how you are preventing this kind of thing is, of course, that you are predicting what kind of ciphering is coming out. But this is, of course, controversial that you should be making randomized ciphering all the time. So you are balancing between the good and bad in these kind of cases. But the next step is coming. And how we are seeing, why the crypto is now coming more important than ever before is that everything is going in the internet. So we have been approached by the several companies who have been asking that, I have been inventing a toaster and have been connecting that to internet. And for few houses later, they are understanding that somebody else is also able to control my toaster, so that it's always going on when I'm away from the home. So this is the challenge that everybody wants to connect, starting from the boilers, smart meters, toaster, to internet. And these guys are not having any understanding about the information security. So now actually there is a huge boom happening that how to get these things in grip. And I didn't put, just by coincidence, this dishwasher in the last thing in the picture, because this is also the road where we are going. Like one of the guys was saying that we will be spying on you through your dishwasher. Okay, good challenge. Actually, this picture has been taken in Finland, because now what is happening in Finland, everybody wants to have an IP camera in their home, so that everybody is putting the IP cameras in their house. And then they are going to their work and showing from their phone that look, I can see my living room there, without understanding that 100 other people are watching their living room in the same time as well. Okay, so there is a small things which needs to be fixed before this is starting to looking good. But the thing is that there's a huge amount of devices which are just now connected to the internet. And believe me, every single bulb in the light will be soon in the internet, part of the internet. And these guys are not having the slightest idea what is happening in this area. So this is the direction where we need to go. So protect the communication, independently if it's a toaster or a fridge, or perhaps it's a nuclear plant. Manage all these protected content systems, so that it's not enough that you are making ciphering, but what you are doing also is that you are having some kind of understanding of the millions of equipments which are there in the systems. And then actually you are having capability to force and audit and all these things, even for this very stupid one bulb which is in the middle of your living room. In the evening, I will be taking this thing a bit higher, so that I will be discussing about the long day heritage. Until that, thank you very much.